This is the story of Latifa, a young woman with a pure heart who entered Khalid's life as his third wife. Her innocence and beauty won over her husband, but also brought the poison of jealousy into the household. Layla and Yasmin, the elder wives, hid their hatred behind discreet veils. Why? Latifa carried what they never could, a son for Khalid. Torn between duty and desire, Khalid spent his nights by her side, ignoring the sharp glances of the others. But when labor arrived in secret, who would reach out to save her? Yesterday's. Rivals ... or tomorrow's mothers. Khalid's house was white and spacious. 3 rooms, 3 women. Layla, the first wife, was a skilled cook. Yasmin, the second, tended to the clothes. Arab tradition allowed it. One husband, multiple wives. Khalid smiled. God blesses this union, he said at the mosque. The men praised Khalid. 3 wives are a blessing, they said. But Layla and Yasmin exchanged looks. The third wife would arrive on Friday. Latifa is young, Khalid warned. Yasmin bit her lip. Layla scrubbed the table harder. Khalid held their hands. No one will be replaced, he promised. Yet he brought gifts for Latifa: new dresses, sweet fruit. She is expecting a son, he whispered. Layla looked at her own empty womb. Yasmin turned away. The wind blew cold through the window. Latifa arrived on a scorching hot day. Her veil was pale blue, and her eyes shone like stars. Khalid introduced her with pride. She will bring joy to our home, he said. Layla offered tea, but her hands trembled. Yasmin frowned at Latifa's new shoes. That night, Khalid ordered silence. Latifa needs to rest, he said. Yasmin let out a low laugh. She has already tired you? Layla tugged her arm. Latifa smiled, innocent. Thank you for welcoming me, she murmured. The words were sweet, but the other wives tasted bitterness. Khalid began dining in Latifa's room. She needs care, he explained. Layla cooked special meals. Yasmin muttered, why doesn't she help? Khalid held Yasmin close. Be kind, he pleaded, but his hands gripped her shoulder, a silent warning. In the hallway, Latifa stroked her belly and smiled to herself. Khalid gifted Latifa golden necklaces. For the mother of my son, he said. Layla and Yasmin received flowers. Latifa wore her gold with pride. That night, Khalid asked for foot massages. Pregnancy makes her tired, he explained. Yasmin rubbed his feet, her hands shaking. With rage, bring Latifa water, Khalid ordered Layla. Layla lifted the jug. The jug nearly slipped. Latifa laughed. Careful, she said. Layla's face flushed. Yasmin shoved Layla. Are we servants now? She whispered. Khalid roared. Respect her. His voice echoed through the room. Latifa chose dinner. I want meat and dates, she said. Layla cooked for hours. Yasmin fumed. She does not command us. Khalid turned to Yasmin. You should help, he said. Latifa listened from the other room, resting a hand on her belly. The night was cold. Layla stopped speaking to Yasmin. Yasmin avoided Latifa's door. At meals, they stared at her belly. Khalid noticed the silence. Why this coldness? He asked. No one answered. Layla smashed a plate on the floor. She gets everything, she cried. Yasmin let out a bitter laugh. You never gave him a son, she spat. Khalid stormed into the kitchen. Enough, he commanded. Latifa heard from the next room and clutched her belly. Yasmin wept in the garden. Layla sat far from her. Khalid brought them sweets. Eat, he urged, but the sweets remained untouched. Latifa passed by, smiling. The wind carried the scent of jasmine, but no one smiled back. Layla and Yasmin sat in the garden. Their tea had gone cold. Enough, Layla said. Yasmin nodded. They looked toward the house. The light from Latifa's room glowed brightly. The next morning, Khalid asked, For coffee. Yasmin crossed her arms. Ask your favorite, she said. Layla did not move the plates. Khalid raised his voice. Obey me, he commanded. They did not stir. Latifa appeared at the door. I need help, she pleaded. Yasmin turned her back. Layla smiled coldly. Help yourself, she said. Khalid looked at all three. Sweat gathered on his brow. The midday sun burned outside. Latifa went into labor at midnight. Layla heard the muffled cries from the hallway. Yasmin awoke to hurried footsteps. Wordlessly, they ran to the room. Latifa lay sweating, clutching her belly. The full moon illuminated their fearful faces. Khalid slept deeply. Layla whispered, we cannot wake him. Yasmin grabbed towels and hot water. Latifa bit down on cloth to keep from screaming. The contractions came hard, and blood stained the sheets. Layla grasped her hand. Breathe, she commanded. The baby was born before dawn. He cried softly, healthy. Yasmin wrapped him in a blanket. Layla wiped the tears from Latifa's face. We must take her to the hospital, Yasmin urged. They carried Latifa to the car. Khalid remained asleep. For the first time, the baby's cries filled that house. Pale but smiling, Latifa held him out to Layla. Yasmin poured hot tea into 3 cups, none of them bitter now. Standing at the door, Khalid saw what his pride had blinded him to. 3 women who had fought for scraps of love had made a feast. Of respect. The boy would grow up calling all of them mother. Burnt pots turned into inside jokes. Jealousy became stories to share under the stars. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to discover how real stories of resilience prove that even the cruelest jealousy can be transformed. When true love knocks at the door,